Hello, WyreWizard here. Excuse me. Alright. Now, in this video, I am going to give you my opinions, outlook, and wisdoms all about life. Now, I have been on this fair earth of ours for 42 years, okay? And as I have said in my Deep Insights video, this is my first incarnation on this earth, okay? Now, as I have told in my previous Deep Insights videos, okay, life is all about learning, okay? And in this video, I want to share most of what I've learned about life, my observations of life, and all that. Okay? I was born back in 1971 in Toms River, New Jersey. I was born to a single mother. Her name, Teresa Penn. Okay? Now, in most ways, she was a good mother, but in other ways, she was a bad mother, too. I mean, she did drugs, okay? She did drugs most of her adult life, starting at the age of 16, I believe, okay? Now, the way I knew that she did drugs was oftentimes she had terrible anger management problems. And I was very often the victim of her abuse. I mean physical, emotional, and vocal abuse, okay? I have been hit by her for the smallest wrongdoings that I have done, okay? And I have often been yelled at her and often insulted her by her, excuse me. She had called me every insult in the book. Asshole, shithead. And she often forbade me from speaking in swear words. I mean, she often used the do as I say, not as I do, hypocritical learning structure to her children, which, if you ask me, is a very, 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 very bad way to instruct your children, okay? Now, if you want your children to be good parents, lead by example, okay? Follow your own rules, the very rules you give them, okay? Don't do things that you tell them not to do, okay? You know, with the exception, you know, driving of cars, you know, cooking, you know, things that only adults can do, okay? Because, you know, the best way to lead is by example. Now, I am no parent myself, not a biological parent. Excuse me. The only children in my life, a nephew, 2 nieces, 2 sons, a daughter, by heart, by a very good friend of mine, as well as 11 grandchildren, whom I all love from the bottom of my heart. But the way I see it, they are all growing up very well. I see them as being taught very well, taught by example. Okay? But I often enjoy spending time with my granddaughter, Braylyn. Okay. What I like to do is make her giggle by doing this. She very often laughs at that. But I enjoy spending time with her, even though it's not in-person time, but through webcam contact, video phone contact on Yahoo Messenger. But growing up for children, they learn a lot, okay? They learn many things, many wisdoms, many things, both from parents, from schools, and all that. Now, for me, going to school was a terrible experience. I had gone to school from kindergarten all the way to my senior year in high school in Toms River. They had misdiagnosed me as learning disabled when I wasn't. I was simply a late bloomer. Now, I hate the way that public schools handle disabled children, learning disabled children, by making them work in materials for lower grades. I mean, for instance, in my freshman year in high school, one of my classes, a teacher whom I'm still very angry with to this day, she had had me work in a workbook for 5th graders. I mean, I thought I was terribly insulted by this. I thought she was insulting my intelligence, insulting everything about me. Now, this teacher, I don't remember her name, but I know you know who you are if you're watching this video. Okay? Now, she was in my second resource room, and her worst crime against me was denying me the right of taking the high school proficiency test and taking the degrading minimum basic skills test, which taught me damn near zip. Now, I know that in my previous video, I have talked about the deficiencies, of special education. I have said that it all should be torn down and start from scratch, okay? Listen to the students instead of ignoring them, which is why I think that schools have a habit of blatantly ignoring learning disabled children. Now, I remember in my freshman year, that one teacher I talked about earlier, I tried to ask to be removed from her class. I had went to my guidance counselor numerous times to ask to be removed. But that terrible man, he was nothing more than a wolf in sheep's clothing, always hiding behind a pearly white smile, refused to listen to me. I'll never forgive him, okay? But I know by now he's retired, probably not working. Because I remember, when I saw him, he was in his 40s or 50s. Wearing glasses, always behind that white-toothy grin of his, and his name sounded like a day of the week. Mr. Friday he was. But the way I saw it, very negligent, very ignorant, ignored my needs completely, wouldn't let me take me out of that teacher's class. Ugh. Oh, I swear. But enough about that. Enough about that. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about the things I have seen and heard and learned in my adult years. You know, after I turned 19 years old, I left high school. I lost the patience to try and get my high school diploma. Excuse me. Excuse me. But anyway, I had strongly felt that they were holding me back, okay? I mean, I was dragged from Toms River, New Jersey, kicking and screaming, and brought down here to Florida against my will. I mean, I was 17 at the time. But of course, after I was brought to Florida, I had turned 18. But one thing, though, about my family was the bastard my mother married. I won't give you his name, but I can tell you this. He was evil incarnate to me. I mean, he had a bad temper, terrible anger management problem, did drugs, very abusive. I mean, he often punched holes in walls when he got angry, destroyed things, especially stuff I owned, screamed his head off. I had lived with that for over 18 years. But it wasn't until after I turned 19 that my mother had stopped doing drugs and saw him for the guy he really was. Then she packed up all her stuff with my stuff and my brother's stuff, and we moved away from him. Never saw him again, thank goodness. But I have to admit, you know, I have issues forgiving him, okay? Very hard, very hard. But I know that forgiving someone is important because, you know, when you forgive someone, you forget, okay? Well, maybe not forget, but it's letting go. I mean, I've heard this lesson from many numerous teachers, authors, like Betty J. Eady and Michael Newton. Yeah. But I think it's going to be many years before I can find it within myself to forgive that bastard. But one thing I do know about him is that he is suffering from hepatitis C, the very disease that killed my mother back 11 years ago. I mean, I know he is on the treatment to keep him alive, but I know that treatment isn't doing everything, you know, to keep his liver from being destroyed. but I know he's living in fear. I know he probably has dogmatic fears about where he will go after he dies. But I am letting that sit with me for, oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking that, you know, they say living well is the best revenge. But I refuse to talk to him. But enough of that, enough of that. Okay. You know, but a few things that I've learned in life over the last 20 years or so, I've learned that, you know, one thing is love, falling in love, okay? I probably wrote about this in a previous, yes, I wrote about it in a previous video of mine called No Such Thing as Love at First Sight, okay? Now, I may have talked about in my free chat on Orinum that love at first sight is extremely rare. But most of the time, people who say they fell in love with you at first sight are lying through their teeth. They're just sexually attracted to you. I had learned about this the hard way from a woman that I had got in touch with on Yahoo Messenger. Now, I won't give you her name, but I have talked about this, you know, in that video as well. But one thing I am hoping is that her husband has caught her in her illicit activities, okay, and has divorced her and thrown her out. And, you know, if she is thrown out, she's probably forced to live with her family, one of her sisters, maybe her parents. But I know that, you know, she will live with a lot of guilt over her life, over all the people that she's hurt. Men like me, her children, and I don't mean physically, you know. But I think she will, for many years, have issues with self-forgiveness. But this lesson I have learned, I hope you will all learn as well. Now, if someone says they've fallen in love with you at first sight, they're lying through their teeth. But if they say they're sexually attracted to you, they're being more honest. You can choose to go with them or dismiss them entirely. Never speak to them again. Excuse me. Now, I have seen many movies, different kinds of movies, okay? And most of these movies come out of Hollywood, mainstream movies as I call them. I mean, 99% of them are very unrealistic, okay? I mean, I'm not talking, you know, sci-fi special effects or fantasies, you know. I'm talking regular dramas, comedies and such, you know, romantic comedies, romances. Those movies are often unrealistic in terms of human behavior, how people should react, and all that. I mean, I know these movies were made by the movie industries to entertain people, to bring people to movie theaters and to buy VHS tapes, DVDs, and Blu-ray discs. Okay? But I've often observed how unreality situations in many movies have drove people to do stupid things, you know. Like one movie I can't remember the name of that showed a bunch of jocks laying on their backs in the middle of a highway, and how many people have duplicated that stunt to often disastrous results. And Jaws, that movie about a great white shark based on the novel by Peter Benchley. I know how Jaws had inspired, well, not inspired, but drove some people to be unrealistically afraid of the ocean. But their fears have often drove other people to hunt sharks, some species to extinction. Now, Jaws and all its sequels is guilty of damaging to the environment, okay? But people who had watched these movies have been driven to fear, and I know beachside towns and resorts had suffered from drastic drops in tourist dollars because of this. Now, Jaws, I think, should have had a disclaimer at the bottom, a disclaimer saying something along the lines of, "This movie is a work of pure fiction, not intended to be a documentary as to the actual natural behavior of great white sharks and other species of sharks." But they failed to do that, so sharks and the earth have all suffered because of it. Okay. Now, another thing about life, I've learned years ago from a movie called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. The Secret covering something called the law of attraction. Okay. Now, I have used the law of attraction a lot, and it's worked in some areas, but I have yet to see it work in other areas, okay? But that shows me that the law of attraction does work. Excuse me. So anyway, I feel that there are some areas of the law of attraction that I have yet to learn. Now, I watch many videos on YouTube about the law of attraction, read many books, try different techniques, and all that. Some of them work, some don't. But to me, the law of attraction is reality, okay? Because I have seen it work. Now, going off the law of attraction and to other areas of wisdom I have learned, I've learned that how some fears often bring what we fear to us. I know this is law of attraction bid, but I have seen this happen a lot. But one thing I'd like to talk about is a subject that fascinates me and morbidly fascinates a few other people. Serial killers. Yeah, you know, I'm talking about people like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, those kind of people. It took me a while to learn this, but one thing about serial killers that I know is they are thrill seekers, okay? They like the shock and awe that they get from killing another human being. I mean, think about it. What if you killed another human being, not intentionally, but by accident? I mean, wouldn't you be in shock? I mean, wouldn't you feel a lot of guilt from it? I mean, that is how serial killers work, okay? They enjoy the thrill and the shock and awe from it. The only trouble is they have done it so much that the remorse and guilt from them, from the action, is gone. But I know that there are many hundreds of serial killers out there who haven't been found yet, because bodies keep being found, people killed in similar ways, and a lot of serial killers are truck drivers, you know, long-haul truck drivers. This is what I had learned a few years ago, you know, but avoiding, you know, serial killers, you know, the best way, to avoid, serial killers is, stay off their hunting grounds, okay? Try not to make yourself a target, I mean, if there are women, your age who are being found dead around your town, okay, never go anywhere alone, all right? I mean, don't walk anywhere. Always ride a car or take a taxi if you can afford it. But the biggest thing is try to distance yourself from the serial killer's target profile. That's about all I know. I mean, I'm not a serial killer profile. I'm just giving advice based on what I have seen. Okay. Now let's see, what else is there? Alright, you know what? I'm done here. I'm going to say some more in another video. Alright? So, I'm going to wish you all a good night. May the Great Spirit bless you all. Farewell. WyreWizard out.